here's my decision tree process, and here's where I want people to take notes. So the first conversation that I have with a client is finding out or discussing active management versus passive management. And a lot of people, and you guys all know this, have no clue how their 401k works. Most of them don't even know who the custodian is. They don't know Vanguard from Charles Schwab from Fidelity. They just know that the 401k is there and money goes in every 2 weeks. So the first question I ask a client is, do you have brokerage accounts? That's the first question. Yes or no? So if you're taking notes here, first question, do you have brokerage accounts? Underneath that, put one arrow yes, one arrow no. If the answer is no, then we stop right there. If the answer is yes, the next question we need to find out, and sometimes, most of the time, I will call with the client to the custodian to ask this question, the second question, which is, do you allow third-party managers? And again, underneath that second question of, do you allow third-party managers, there's a yes and there's a no. Well, if they have brokerage, yes, but they don't allow third-party, we're done. The last question that I ask on this yes side of the decision tree is, do you allow third-party management fees? And here is where it becomes beautiful. If the answer is yes, then I'm looking to companies like Hamlin, Summit Global, Pinnacle, Flex Plan, companies that we work with that work as third-party managers and take fees from 401ks, and I use one of them as the investment advisory rep firm. If the answer is no, which is with the miners and the platform here where I work, the copper miners, the answer is no. Well, if they allow brokers, if they allow third-party management, but they don't allow fees to come out directly, then I utilize the Pacific Financial Group. Because the fee that comes out is not an investment advisory fee, it is like a 12B1. It's a managed mutual fund type platform. And because of that, fees can come out and I can be paid. So those are the three questions that I ask. And a lot of times you're going to ask those questions to the client and they're not going to know. But I try to take the time, I want to take the time so that as we're done with the first initial meeting, the client understands and they've learned themselves more about their own 401k. Because as you help that client and they understand more of what can happen on their own platform, they become a more powerful referral source to your business. Because they can go back to the shop. They can go back to the hospital. They can go back to the station, the fire station or the police station, and they can say, look, hey, I met this guy, Layne. He taught me something that nobody's told us about on our own platform. There's these things called brokerage accounts. They're right here when we log in. And when we use these brokerage accounts, I have somebody professionally managing my money. And they become a better, more powerful referral source for your business. So again, the first question that I ask is, does your 401k allow brokerage accounts, or does it have brokerage accounts? The second question I ask is, do the brokerage accounts allow third-party management? And then the third question that I ask is, are third-party fees allowed to be deducted, yes or no? And if it's yes, I use one of our advisory rep firms that can take fees. If not, then I utilize TPFG to do it. Now, here's the other beautiful thing about TPFG. and I love these guys. They have helped my business tremendously. My clients are happy with the management. Are they the best in the world, the strongest in the world? No, they're not, but they're performing, and they've saved clients money in down markets, and my clients are happy with that, and I'm happy with that, okay? Because TPFG has no minimum to manage, even if a client does allow third-party fees, a lot of our third-party investment advisory firms are $25,000 minimum or higher, okay? TPFG is a zero minimum. So that's where I can work with the new hires, the 20-year-olds, and the young people who are starting to save. I can have managed accounts through TPFG, building a relationship, and then when an account gets to $25,000 or more, I can move them to one of our other investment advisory firms. I can keep them with TPFG if they're happy. So, TPFG is a fix to a problem. Love their service. They've helped me out. If I can't get a client to find an answer about the 401k, I usually call Zach McGrath or Janet Lee or somebody back in the back office, and I try not to bug them a bunch, but they can, if they know the custodian and they know the company of the 401k, they can do a lot of research and tell you if they manage on those platforms or not. And you've seen the list, and if any of you are out there at WealthWave, you saw the list of companies and platforms and custodians that TPFG works on. They're almost innumerable. They are just, I almost boldly say that if a client of yours has a 401k, or you're looking at a modern Fortune 500 company, they have brokerage accounts and they allow active money management. So that's kind of what I wanted to close on. Great business. You guys got to get into it. It will change. It'll change the trajectory of your business. All right, Pat, any questions?
Yes. And I want to open it up to everybody who has a question. My first one is, how do you find, as you do your client reviews, are you just asking the clients there of these questions, or are you getting a list of the companies ahead of time and kind of probing, hey, I know this client works for this company, and yeah, I've done my research. Can you just talk to that point just a little bit?
Okay, so I do both. Now, if I'm meeting with one of my local clients here, and again, the county that I live in is not big, so I know all the big employers. I know that the public service people use Nationwide. We can manage Nationwide. I know that the miners that worked for Freeport-McMoRan use Charles Schwab. I know for a fact that we can do that. Now, when I branch out and I'm dealing with a client in Tucson or Phoenix, a lot of times, number one, I know what company they work for. And the next question that I ask them is, who's the custodian? Who is in charge of your 401k? Is it Fidelity? Is it Vanguard? Is it Charles Schwab? Is it T. Rowe Price? Is it Paychex? Is it TD Ameritrade? And when I find out the custodian and I find out the company, I can usually make a call to any one of our firms and find out very quickly if they work on that platform. I just like to, if I'm sitting with a client for the first time and they're not sure, I want to take it as a teaching moment to have them call, ask some questions, find out a little bit more, so that they, at the end of our meeting, they're like, hey, I learned something. I've grown. I've learned something about my own money and where it's at. But generally speaking, I can find that out without the client even being around.
Right. And a good rule of thumb, though, is to always make the call with the client. Don't rely on the client to make the call.
Never rely on, that sounds horrible the way I said that, but yes, never assume they're going to go home and make that phone call.
Sure.
Why leave it to chance? If you're there and you're meeting with them and you know the questions to ask, just do it with the client right in front.
Yep.
It'll be quick, easy, painless.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open it up. I do have some just finishing questions, but I'd like to just offer the group to just ask any questions that obviously is related to the TPFG and maybe how he markets, et cetera. But anything that anybody has, any questions?
Layne, this is Todd. Can you hear me?
I can, Todd. Yes.
Thank you for being on this call today. You know, I noticed you said that if they don't offer the ability to charge third-party fees, then obviously you're going to go with TPFG. But if they do, then you would pick one of our other third-party money managers. Do you feel that that's more of a performance issue or ease of doing business? Because I've only done TPFG. I've only done one account so far. I haven't ventured into the third-party money manager space with the SDBA accounts.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to
Okay.
me for not just doing it TPFG across the board?
Okay. So number one, if like I said, let's start with the minimum. A lot of our investment advisory firms, Summit Global, Hanlon, so on and so forth, that manage on these platforms have a $25,000 minimum.
Yep.
Okay. Like the account has to be 25 grand or higher for them to even open it up. So if anybody's less than that, I'm TPFG just because my client wants this.
Right.
I can have a relationship. I can build it. TPFG is the way to go. Now, and this is a selfish capitalist standpoint, if I were, let's say, and we're hoping that Summit Global is able to do this, or that this plan at the mine where I work changes back again, which it's kind of in the works possibly to allow third-party fees to come back into vogue and allowed from the plan. If I were to switch my clients from TPFG over to Summit Global, I would make more money.
I see.
Like I would be paid a higher commission rate because of the way the fee structure is. Now, Summit Global in this case is a lot of times has outperformed TPFG. And I'm not saying that I would do that because TPFG has been great for me. But from another standpoint, if I am looking at a client, let's say I'm looking at a nationwide client, they can either go TPFG or they can go Summit Global. Because third-party fees are allowed, I'm going to utilize Summit Global, Hanlon, one of these others.
And in those situations, the fee would be disclosed to the client versus TPFG, where it's kind of buried into the 12B1 space.
The answer is yes, but if you are smart and you're doing your business correctly, which I know that we all are, I am always pointing that out, even with TPFG. I make it a point that they know what the fees are. Now I compare it to what the fees are in their life cycle fund, what fee is coming out for the custodian. All of these things you can find out on the plan and what they're paying, because guess what? Most 401ks really don't disclose the cost of money to the participants. And when you see the fee that's already built in versus the fee of having a brokerage and a third-party management, and then you see the performance and you see the work that's being done for the client on the brokerage side versus the institutional side, most clients are like, yeah, I'll pay more to have this being done. It's not happening where I'm at and I'm paying them X amount of points. Why not pay a little bit more and have actually somebody watching it? So I always disclose it no matter what.
Awesome. One more question, and I think I may be done with my questions, is what do you feel your most common objection is when you're talking to clients, and how do you handle that common objection?
So I think I'll be honest, I don't really have objections. I don't. I don't. Because when I lay out my presentation, I tell them here are the downsides. The downsides are it costs more, but it costs more in comparison to what you're already paying. You tell me what the downside is. Somebody's watching it. They historically have been out when times are bad and in when times are good. You can end this relationship at any time. You're not contractual like an annuity. You can move money from this brokerage account back into your core account if you see fit. I guess an objection would be I have had people when markets are up say, hey, I'm gonna do it myself, and I always just smile and say, please do. Never leave the client with a bad taste as they take over money and put it back in their core account, because the next time the market drops 20-30%, they'll come back. They will.
Perfect.
Because I still have clients that are with me, and they're going to compare to clients that are with me versus what they just happened to them because they could manage it themselves, they come back.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem, Todd. Thank you for the question.